City of Stevens Point Transportation Commission meeting, recorded February 14, 2022.
Okay. Well then, do you think everybody's here that you were expecting, Talon? Looks like we've got 12 participants, including community. So, all right. Well, then we'll get going. It's 4:47. We'll call the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is the roll call. I'll hand that over to you, Talon.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so we have Nicole Lisney.
Here.
Greg Keppel.
Here.
All right, Tom Bertram.
Present.
Alder Christensen.
Here.
All right, Alder Kneebone.
Here.
Carolyn Peterson.
Here.
Right, and Caitlin Wall. I know we don't have to do, and then me, and it looks like Director Lemke's with us today as well.
Okay. All right, we'll move to agenda item number 2, which is approval of the January 2022 Transportation Commission minutes.
Move to approve.
Carolyn Peterson will second.
So moved by a motion by Greg and a second by Carolyn, right? Okay. Any further discussions or questions on the minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll take the motion to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Move to agenda item number 3, which is approval of the January financial claims report for 2022. Are there any questions for Tom? Then we'll need a motion.
I'll move approval.
Kneebone will second.
Okay, motion by Mark, second by Mary. Any further questions before we take the motion to vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll take the motion to vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Move to agenda item number 4, which says discussion on waiving the fares for Century World's 2023 USGA event in lieu of advertising venues. So, Talon, you want to talk a little bit about that? How that came to be? Oh, you're on mute.
Yep. Oh yeah, you should be able to hear me. I've got the phone line on. Yeah, good. So so how this came about is, well, with the big event coming, Century's doing a senior PGA tour event in 2023. There's going to be a lot of people in town. I think local estimated revenue or local estimated financial impact is somewhere around $20 million for the event. So there's going to be a lot of traffic in town, a lot of people that are going to need rides to and from the event. So we came up with the idea of doing public transportation routes, just like our normal fixed routes during the day, to kind of alleviate some of that pressure in town, serve the community, promote transportation. We have sat down with the championship director at Century, and they're very interested in partnering with us. And one of the ways that they can do that is promoting their event on our advertisement on the outside of the buses, and that is great local revenue for us. I've also kind of talked to some other systems that do special events primarily Green Bay with the Packers, and they do something very similar. They have the Packers advertising on their buses, and they go through their commission and they waive fares for the Packers. They do that once a year, not for the Packers specifically, but for the community. Just makes operations so much easier when people can just get on the bus, go to the event. And so in terms of kind of real dollars, depending on what level of service that we give for the event, can be anywhere from a local cost between $2,500 and $8,500. So in order to make that up in advertising, we look for them to spend $4,000 to $10,000 on advertising, and that would offset their local costs. So we would kind of base the amount of service on what they would be willing to do for advertising for the event and just the local need. It is a good thing to get out there to alleviate traffic and things like that. So kind of looking to just blanket waive fares for the event.
So are you, like, we set up separate buses to run to the event? And how many days is the event?
Yep. So the event runs 7 days, Monday through Sunday. The tournament runs 4 days, Thursday through Sunday. So we would really be looking at where's the most need. There's still studies, estimations being done about how many people will be in town. We're still waiting for those numbers, when they're going to be needing transportation to the event, kind of when the hot times are. So it would either be 4 or 7 days of buses, and then depending on those numbers too, we might have 1 or 2 buses on the same route. They will go to parking locations and then drop off locations for the event. So those parking locations primarily are on the university and Spash, but there could be another few other places around town.
I'm curious why the advertising route versus just a straight kind of quid pro quo for the service.
I think so with the advertising, it's obviously they're getting kind of a more of a return there in promoting the event, but then they also have the ability to spend more money with us. So there is some give and take there. There definitely has been discussions of a quid pro quo for the event. That's a possibility as well. But just talking to Green Bay and hearing how they have done the events, how it's worked with the Packers for as long as they've ran a system, it sounds like it works pretty good.
One other thing, if I could interject there too, is that there's a relative amount of unknown involved there. So if we try to get into a relationship with them where we say you're going to pay $1.50 a ride, or whatever we do, and we don't know how to estimate that yet based on need, it leaves a little bit of unknown for them and us. Whereas we can guarantee that the advertising on the buses is going to be on there, and they're going to get they're going to be able to take advantage of that, and that anybody that enters those routes for that purpose is going to ride for free. Going into the event that everybody's winning. The other thing that I want to kind of point out is that in this proposal, transit's showing up in a way that we've never really, to my knowledge, done before. And it's really kind of a cool opportunity, and it kind of opens the door for us to do some really creative things like this in the future, where you're creating a route specific to an event, establishing that it's going to be above neutral on the revenue side, right? Which is where we seek to be, just near that neutral point, but above that in the advertising space, and gives us a really good platform to jump off in the future. And I gotta give everybody at Transit real kudos for being imaginative in that regard, because I think that for a community resource like this to be leveraged like this is a really neat thing. and it's not being done in any way that shouldn't be done, right? So it's creative, it's beneficial to everybody. They'll get some good ads out of it, a good kind of community awareness of everything going on there. So I think it's really exciting.
And just to confirm, I think I heard, Talon, you mentioned something to this effect a few minutes ago when Nicole asked a question, but I just want to confirm this doesn't, this is all above and beyond our normal route service, and that continues unabated, and this would be above and beyond that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it won't have any effect on our normal route service. Our university routes aren't running at the time, so staffing-wise, we'll be in a good place during the summer because people that run those university routes, a lot of them want hours during the summer. So, yep, absolutely.
This is the second big event that Century's had. Didn't they have a junior girls tournament a couple years ago? I suspect they're making a play to be in the big time, consideration for these golf tournaments. And I think if we do this right the first time, people are gonna want to come back. Joel, do you know by chance, will parking be prohibited on North Point? Because parking at a premium on the Century grounds. So this is a great opportunity for folks.
Yeah, there's a few offsite parking places already established. I think they're working with the university. We're going to site some parking out at the airport where everybody parked for the air show, if you're familiar with that. And so those parking spots would be stops on these special routes that they'd create. But as it pertains to North Point, I think there's been some different requests they've made of Public Works to modify the use of North Point. I guess I'll leave it at that for now because I don't know what that involves at all, but they're definitely considering that. It's a wide right of way, but I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, I think as long as we don't lose money on the deal, I think it's a great idea. If we can work something out with Century to say, we'll tally all those riders, and if it's more, well, I mean, however you guys want to work it out, but I think it's a really good start, and I think it's gonna pay off down the line, because I don't think this is going to be the last big tournament that Century's going to host.
I think it's important that it goes well. And I think the fact that we're going to have that transportation available, I think will establish it as an even better site. I think it's going to be beneficial to the spectators. I think it's going to be beneficial to the community because it's going to have that much less congestion then in the community as well. I see it as a win-win for everybody. I also think it increases the chances of those future big events. And when you take a look at the amount of business it brings into the community, the money that they spend here is going to circulate typically like 5 times. So that's going to be a huge economic impact by the time all is said and done. I think we're leveraging a community resource in such a way that it's, I think, going to really benefit the community as a whole.
I just want to clarify something. Talon, correct me if I'm wrong, but the advertising threshold we would propose would mean that we are at least at a net zero revenue wise, in other words, breaking even without a single rider on the bus, right? It's covering our time and expenses.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So the same way that we do it with the university, so how the university does it to pay fares is the local cost of the service is calculated, and then that's split up amongst the students to pay their fares for the semester or for the year. So we could do it the same way, to where we would be choosing the right level of service based on what amount of advertising they're comfortable with, and exactly, they're starting at net zero, and they can advertise as much as they want, so for as long as they want.
Yeah. The other thing I think is pretty neat is for community members who are trying to get from whatever parking lot into it's going to be probably their first and only exposure to the transportation system and the capability of what we offer in town. And so, that alone would be a great insight just for, let alone out of towners, just for the local community to say, hey, this is our system, this is our bus. Wow, this is kind of cool. What we have going on here.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We see it on the university all the time for, a special event or like a late night transportation. Just getting that barrier of getting on the bus down turns people into lifelong bus riders. So it's a great point.
So this agenda item was just a discussion. Are you going to be bringing something back for us to take a motion on at a future meeting then?
I can. If we, you guys can definitely make a motion today if you want to. No, we can't. It needs to be. Oh, discussion and possible action. If you see on the top of the agenda, so there could be possible action. I know I wrote that on there. That discussion on. But I can definitely bring it back at the next meeting. That's no problem at all. So I'd like to, once a motion's made on it, then we'll set up another meeting with Century just discussing the routes, and we'll keep you guys updated on that.
Yeah, I guess I didn't see the discussion or possible motion at the top. Are we?
Nicole, are you comfortable with that, or?
As long as our older people are.
What if we just moved to have Talon continue to pursue this discussion or negotiation with Century, and then you know how that goes, Joel, some of those things. We vote to have them start discussions.
Yeah,
we could do something like that.
I think even the nature of the discussion means that there's a very large commission support here. So at that end, I think that knowing that if there's a financial impact that isn't an impact through advertising, that the commission's going to be supportive, I think that's enough for us to move forward with discussions, knowing that we got your support. So that's great.
We should probably formalize it at some point, though. Like you said, at least the next meeting. The council relies on us to advise them, and so they're counting on this discussion by us. So at least by then we can formalize it.
And if I could, I guess what would be really helpful at this point. I know it's only a month till our next meeting, and we've got a long time till the event. But given that this is kind of new territory for the operation, I think what might be helpful is a motion to approve the essentially considering the creation of special routes for this special event, and looking at offsetting the expense of that with advertising revenue, and then coming back with the final creation thereof. I think that would be good because it gives us very clear direction on what we're hoping to do here.
Trying to think quite how to word that. So move to allow the transportation superintendent or just the transit department to explore special routes, dedicated routes for upcoming special events. Is that enough?
Yeah. And ways to offset that expense through advertising revenue. Okay.
Yeah. With the consideration of offsetting costs with advertising revenue. So I'll make.
Was that the motion for specifically for 2023 USGA or for any future events?
I think we're really just talking about this event in particular.
So maybe we should have Talon read back what he captured.
Specifically around the Century golf tournament this summer. Something like that.
Summer 2023.
23.
23, still a year out.
Oh, that's right. It's not this summer, is it? Okay, so let's see. So I will move to allow transit to discuss the creation of a special route for the Century World 2023 USGA event and use advertising revenue to offset the operations cost of those routes.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mary and a second by Mark. Did you get it, Talon?
Yes, yeah. And I can get it from the recording as well. But I think I got, let's see, because I had some from the first and some from the second here. Move to allow transportation to discuss dedicated routes for the 2023 USGA event with the consideration of offsetting costs with advertising revenue. I think that's the gist of it.
Okay.
And Mark's seconded. Yep.
So any further discussion or questions on the motion?
This isn't a question. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Not really a question on the motion, but a potential idea. I'm not sure how much revenue you earn in a week, just in general, but what if you pose the idea that you charge them a little bit more for revenue for advertising, and you make all transit free for that week, no matter what, and then you just promote the heck out of it, saying rides are free because of Century this week. Thanks, Century. And then you don't have to deal with fares or non-fares for whatever. And maybe, I just don't know, maybe it'll be too much of a hit. That's an idea for you to take. I still love the motion.
That might provide more flexibility for people that are at various hotels and different, rather than just having the buses from the parking, the designated lots. You know, there may be people then that would be able to take the buses downtown to eat, or, you know, it might, that's not a bad idea but I don't know what that total cost would be and whether or not they'd be willing to foot that kind of a bill. But it would give a lot more flexibility for community members and for visitors out of town. If all the buses, we could have special routes back and forth to the designated lots, but in addition, all the others and all the other routes would then have that same type of flexibility. I don't know.
So, just kind of a part of that discussion, maybe that's something that the commission would just consider doing anyway, is waiving the events. You know, we do Free Ride Fridays, we do Youth Ride Free in the summers. Maybe, you know, I know this isn't a permanent event, it's kind of a one-time thing, so I don't want to get us stuck in a situation where, you know, we're putting ourselves in a hard place financially long-term, but it's certainly not, you know, wouldn't be an issue for a single week like that in the summer.
Again,
it's also really
a good way to get people on the bus for that first time. So, you know, you have a better chance of building. I like that idea. Even maybe you broach the idea with Century and just say, you know, well, if you're willing to do that, we'll split costs. We'd add that portion for half of what our typical costs are for that week. If you're willing to foot half, we'll foot the other half, and we'll make all the fares, and it'll give all the people attending the tournament that much more flexibility.
I think it's good direction to take to the conversation, to say, hey, this is what it's going to cost you to get those routes, and by the way, for this much extra, you can advertise that everybody rides a bus for free all over town. You know, something to that effect. I think Talon can come back with some interesting conversation. in the months ahead.
Good idea.
Yeah, it's
For-
it's a powerful message, and
Yeah.
it's just a tremendous idea.
Depending on where the routes are, if the buses were to make a swing by, say, Cobblestone and the Holiday Inn out here as part of that, moving people, not necessarily those who just drive in and park and wait at the parking area to get the ride, but but that would be another thing you could throw into Century and say, hey, we're willing to stop by, the Holiday Inn. We're willing to stop by Cobblestone. We're willing to swing by these hotels as well, and give people direct rides. And maybe they'd be willing to throw in a little bit more, another kind of thing to throw into the mix.
I'm not sure if it was clear before, but Talon, the housing component of this is one of the components of the route.
Okay.
Right? So parking,
Okay.
housing, event. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Considering all that stuff, and what's nice too, with that initial meeting with Century is they're very open, very willing to work with us. So I do appreciate these ideas, and yeah, there will be a lot to consider with the routes and, what level of service. There's also, just a reminder to anybody, there's complimentary paratransit service anytime we're running fixed routes. So that is also a big benefit to people trying to get to the event.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any last comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll take the motion to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, so that finishes out agenda item number 4. Agenda item number 5 is the next meeting date. So we're currently scheduled for Monday, March 14th at 4:45 p.m. And with that, we are adjourned. Thanks everybody for coming. Have a good month.
Thanks, everyone.
You too.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.